Hello, 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 Woodman here. It is Monday, August 12th, 2024, and I'm continuing our series on the divine nature of numbers. The history of numbers in Africa is rich and diverse, reflecting a deep connection to spirituality, culture, and practical needs. African numerology and mathematical practices have often been intertwined with spiritual and divine beliefs, and many African mathematicians and scholars have drawn inspiration from these traditions. Here's an exploration of African numerical systems, their divine aspects, and the role of mathematics in African spirituality. We'll start off with the African history of numbers. Egypt is in Africa, and therefore it is counted as being part of the rich African tradition. Ancient Egyptian mathematics, as we previously covered, used a base 10 numeral system where they employed hieroglyphs to represent numbers, such as vertical strokes for units, a heel bone for tens, a coil of rope for hundreds, and so forth. In terms of their mathematical practices, the Egyptians developed sophisticated techniques for arithmetic, geometry, and algebra. They used these techniques for practical purposes like building the pyramids and managing agricultural resources. When we look at different papyrus texts, documents like the Rhind Mathematical Papyrus and the Moscow Mathematical Papyrus provide evidence of their advanced mathematical knowledge. And concerning what it takes to build a pyramid, from an engineering standpoint, there would have to be something like that going on, right? Whether it is Egypt or Nubia or whatever African kingdom that was relying on these systems to create these engineering feats. Let's talk about African counting systems. In West Africa, various West African cultures had unique counting systems. For example, the Yoruba of Nigeria used a base 20 system for counting, while the Akan of Ghana used a base 10 system with their own numeral symbols. In terms of Zulus, the Zulu people of South Africa used a base 20 system for counting, and they incorporated specific terms for certain numbers and systematic ways of how they combine them. In terms of traditional counting tools, we have the cowrie shells. And if you've heard about the cowrie shells before, you'll know they're a great divination tool and they have a very divine aspect to them in many African cultures. So the cowrie shells were used as counting tools in mathematics in addition to their divinatory properties. They served as a form of currency and were employed in various counting and recording systems, as well as obviously some form of trade. Let's talk about the divine nature of numbers in African spirituality. From a spiritual and symbolic significance, there were sacred numbers. In many African cultures, certain numbers were considered to be honored or sacred or imbued with spiritual significance. For instance, the number 7 is often associated with completeness and divine order in various African traditions, just as much as they are in certain Christian traditions or Judaic traditions. In terms of rituals and divination, numbers play a crucial role in rituals and divination practices. For example, the Ifa divination system of the Yoruba involves complex calculations and interpretations of patterns involving numbers. So, what about their cosmological as well as ontological beliefs? In terms of cosmic order, many African spiritual traditions viewed numbers as reflecting the cosmic order or divine principles of the greater universe at large. Numbers were often seen as symbols of the fundamental structures and forces that govern the entire universe. In terms of symbolism and mythology, numbers were frequently embedded in myths and cosmological narratives, representing certain deities, certain ancestral spirits, or important cultural concepts. Let's give some examples of the significance of divine numbers in African culture. We'll begin with the Dogon of Mali. The Dogon people have a rich cosmology where numbers and celestial bodies are intertwined with their spiritual beliefs. They associate specific numbers with cosmic phenomena as well as with certain deities. What about the Akan of Ghana? The Akan people have a traditional calendar system that integrates numerical and spiritual concepts with specific numbers linked to certain festivals and particular spiritual practices. What about the inspiration and the influence of the divine, the aspect of deities that interacted with African mathematicians? So, first we have the integration of spiritual and practical knowledge. In terms of harmonious knowledge, in many African cultures, mathematical knowledge is closely linked with spiritual and practical aspects of life. Traditional mathematicians often saw their work as part of a broader spiritual framework, integrating practical problem solving with divine cosmological principles. And I know there was a particular Indian mathematician, but so I'm sorry I'm coming up short on his name, but I know that he developed a very complex form of mathematics, which he indicated was given to him by his deity. Divine inspiration. Mathematicians and scholars have viewed their work as inspired by divine or ancestral forces. This inspiration was reflected in their approach to mathematics, which often included elements of ritual as well as spiritual significance. What about the contributions of mathematics to engineering, architecture, and art? First, we have sacred geometry, which is that the design of sacred spaces such as temples and ceremonial grounds often involved geometric principles that were perceived as reflecting divine order. This construction of monumental architecture, such as the great Zimbabwe ruins, incorporated advanced mathematical knowledge with spiritual as well as cosmological significance. What about the preservation and transmission of mathematical knowledge? Well, in much of African mathematical knowledge was passed down through oral traditions. They were transmitted orally and integrated with spiritual teachings. Elders and scholars who practiced mathematics often did so within a context of spiritual and communal values. Let's delve into the cultural integration. In African traditions, mathematical knowledge was not separate from spirituality. Rather, it was seen as a manifestation of divine principles and a means to understand and interact with the cosmos. Hmm, interesting how that works, right? Which would mean that sometimes, in some cases, that kind of knowledge wasn't something that they were going to spread just anyone and everyone, but maybe just a select few who were the keepers of this spiritual sacred knowledge. So, in summary, the history of numbers in Africa encompasses a range of sophisticated systems and spiritual practices which were deeply intertwined with their beliefs on the divine and the ancestors and the spirits. Ancient Egyptian mathematics laid a foundational knowledge, while other African cultures developed unique counting systems and tools. The divine nature of numbers in African spirituality reflects a view that numbers symbolize cosmic order and higher spiritual principles. African mathematicians often drew inspiration from their spiritual beliefs, integrating mathematical practices into their cosmological as well as ritualistic understanding of the world at large. I hope you enjoyed this message. If you're new here, welcome aboard. It's a safe space. All are welcome. If you're returning, thank you, family, for coming back. Your support of this channel means the great world to me. I wish you the blessings of the Most High God, the Messiah Jesus Christ, Mother Sophia of wisdom, and the Holy Spirit of the universe, as well as the ancestors, that they may bless you, guide you, inform you, keep you safe, protect you from harm. On that note, catch you on the next one. Woodman signing off. Take care. Bye.